Want to see the first pen display I ever used in my 2D animations? No, it wasn't an iPad, and it wasn't a Wacom. I'll show you what it was in today's episode of the Expat Animator. This is the first pen display I've ever owned. It's a motion computing M1300, and it came out in 2003. Before this, I had a Wacom Intuos, but that didn't have a screen. So you'd be drawing on your table and be looking at your monitor instead of looking right at the drawing on the monitor. So when this thing came around as an option, it was something I really wanted to have. And it's because you could take the pen, which came out of here, and you could draw right on the screen. So again, this is the first time I ever owned a device that would let me do this. Now, I said it came out in 2003, but I didn't buy it until 2005. And before I owned this, I did use that Wacom Intuos that I'd mentioned that was where I was doing a lot of my animation projects with. And this M1300 for motion computing was one of the only options available at the time to draw on your screen, like a pen display. The company Motion Computing isn't around anymore. They were around from 2002 to 2015, and this M1300 model was the second model that they made. I can't find the original price, but I think it was around $2,000. And I bought this one used on eBay in 2005. And I remember there was a bidding war going on for it, and I won it at the very last second. We kept bidding the thing up, and I finally won it. So I was pretty happy to actually get my hands on this because if you didn't want to buy one new, they were pretty hard to come by used. It had a 12.1-inch diagonal screen, and the resolution was, I believe, less than 720p. So you didn't have a lot of area for your tool palettes in your animation softwares. It ran Windows XP, and it did come with a pen, but that pen did not have pressure sensitivity. It also came with a keyboard and trackpad built in like the same unit. So basically it looked like the bottom portion of a laptop. And it had a cable with a USB that you would plug into the tablet. So you could use it like a laptop. Although you'd have to find something to prop up the tablet because it didn't come with like a hinge or anything. But it did come with that plastic cover to protect the screen. If you go look at my original Traveling Gringos animations here on YouTube, I'll link to that in the description. I animated that back in 2008, and that whole series was drawn on this M1300. And if you look closely at the line work in those drawings, there's no variation of the thick to thinness width in the line work, and that's because the pen didn't support it. So all the line work in that animation is the same width. I installed a 2D animation program called Mirage on this, and that was the main software that I used to do my animation with. You may not have heard of Mirage. It doesn't exist anymore. It was the American version of the France software TV Paint, which is still around. One thing that I didn't like about Mirage was you had to have a dongle plugged in or the software wouldn't work. I still have that dongle to this day, actually. Mirage had a pretty big learning curve, but it was very powerful software, especially with pixel-based 2D animation. But Mirage eventually merged back with TV Paint, and the price went way up, even if you were going to upgrade from a past version of Mirage to TV Paint. Today, the professional version of TV Paint is over $1,400. And since I don't animate every day for my day job, that's just too much for me to want to spend on animation software. And that's a lot of money to spend for someone that doesn't use this animation software for their day job and only gets the occasional paying animation client. Everything else that I do is basically projects for myself, and so again, I don't really want to spend $1,400 on software. I've also owned versions of Toon Boom in the past. Toon Boom is now Harmony, but back when I used it, it was called Toon Boom. And even though it allowed for pixel-based animation, strong points were with vector-based animation. So it wasn't really my favorite animation software. And that also had a big learning curve. So that's why I went looking for a pixel-based 2D animation software package after I hadn't been animating for a while, and eventually found and settled on Rough Animator. But I don't want to talk too much about software today. I want to talk about hardware and what the best hardware was to animate on back in the early 2000s. In my opinion, it was this Motion M13. I'm actually not even really sure when Wacom released its first pen display tablet. If you know what model it was or what year it came out, leave it in the comments below. Hang on. I found an article from 2005, February 18th, 2005 to be exact, that talks about the world's first Cintiq interactive pen display from Wacom. And it was called the Cintiq 21UX. And it was 21.3 inches, a diagonal screen monitor, and a 1600 by 1200 resolution. And this monitor cost $2,500 and was expected to launch in March of 2005. Nowadays, you can buy 24-inch monitors for under $1,000. You can even get a top-of-the-line 32-inch 4K monitor from Wacom, the Wacom Cintiq Pro 32, for $3,300, plus $500 for the stand. Will somebody tell me why stands are so expensive these days? I probably used this M1300 as my main animation tool for over 11 years. It wasn't until I bought my iPad Pro 12.9 inch back in 2016 when they were first released that I finally switched devices. Remember, that iPad Pro was the first Apple device that supported the Apple Pencil. So when that came out, I was really excited and bought one pretty quickly after they were released. But I found that I didn't like iOS, especially back then, for my needs as an animator. And after only a year, I decided to sell that iPad and bought my XP Pen 22E monitor that I'm still using to this day. In fact, it's in front of me here right now. Since then, I've also added a couple of devices, including the 6th generation iPad with the old Apple Pencil and the XP Pen 12, XP Pen Artist Pro 12. And I got that one for animated on the go. But this old M1300 has a special place in my personal animation history. And maybe that's why I haven't thrown it out yet, even though it's literally deteriorating and turning to dust. Someday I would like to upgrade this XP Pen 22-inch in front of me, as there are better options out there now. But I know how good I have it with a pen display this big, especially after years of animating on a 12-inch screen. I'm excited to see this new wave of pen displays bringing in the new 4K screens. They're just really starting, but I'm hoping to see some more options, especially in the larger formats, like 22 and 24 inches, coming soon. I might just have to eventually get one. But that's about it for today. My name's Patrick Davidson. This has been another episode of the Expat Animator. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. If you found today's video helpful, you might like some of my animation classes over at Skillshare.com. I'll put the link in the description below.